At 59, she's only just getting started. Today, I'm so honored to be here interviewing her on my podcast, and it's been such a joy to watch her journey unfold since I've gotten to know her. We've been friends for a few years. She's been my client since I became a life coach, and she herself is a life coach right now. She's a yogi, she's a mom of twins, and oh my god, is there anything this woman cannot do? I'm talking about my dear friend Kathy, and it was such a joy to interview her on the podcast. And as we navigate a relationship in so many different capacities, to sit here in this space on this platform and talk about our friendship, her evolution as a client, her growth, her journey, her breakthroughs, we do share some tears, laughter, and she talks about the challenges. And of course, she drops truth bombs, wisdom all along. And mind you, there's also a blooper from my little guy, which I didn't edit out because that was pure gold, so left it in there. And in case you're curious, she does pay real good money to get coached by me. And we don't share this coaching relationship just because we are friends, but we share this coaching relationship because this is sacred. And she gets to see the results of it, and I get to witness her magic and her greatness through all the work that she's been doing. So that's amazing. And as you listen to this episode, I hope that you do get to witness the pure love, the joy, the admiration, the visions that we have for each other, because that's the foundation of this genuine relationship that we both share. And I did try to edit out quite a bit of this episode because before we knew it, we were talking for 2.5 hours long. And likely, if my son didn't come in, we would keep going. But despite all the edits, because I wanted to retain all of the gold from this conversation, this episode does end up being 2 hours long. But I hope you don't skip a beat because there's golden nuggets all along. So let's jump right in. Welcome to the Inner Golden Hour podcast, where dreams take flight, mind, body, and soul get a serious holistic upgrade, and personal evolution transforms into a shared spiritual adventure. Consider this your dedicated sanctuary for exploration, self-discovery, unfiltered truths, diverse perspectives, and some much-needed heart-to-heart real talk. Hi, I'm your host Kusum. I'm a mindset and manifestation life and business coach. Think of me as that best friend you never knew you needed. The one unafraid to call out your BS, deliver a dose of tough love, and hit you with some truth bombs. This podcast is more than just a series of episodes. It's a transformative experience guiding you to dig into your truths, ditch those old limiting beliefs, and fully embrace the real authentic you. It's an invitation to align your mind, body, heart, and soul, to dream big, to explore what truly lights you up, and to manifest a reality that surpasses your wildest imagination. Envision this space as the magical golden hour when everything radiates with a breathtaking glow, revealing the depths of your inner world. Now, come along and immerse yourself in a perpetual flow of inspiration, insights, and massive transformation across all areas of your life. Let's explore the extraordinary, one enlightening episode at a time. First guest episode of the Inner Golden Hour podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today. How are you feeling to be on the podcast and to be the first guest?
A little nervous, gonna be honest, but that's
Uh-huh.
okay because I never know what's gonna come up with you and I. So
Yeah.
yes, I'm thrilled. I am so excited for this next endeavor for you.
Oh my gosh. Thank
More
you.
people need to hear you.
Well, thank you so much. That's very kind of you. And thank you so much for being my guest. And for those of you who don't know, well, actually, nobody else besides you and I know this, that anytime I have some crazy idea pop up in my head, I just text Kathy and I'm like, Kathy, how does your week look? Or how does your day look? And then that's how we go about doing anything between the two of us. So that's exactly how this came about too. So I was in the shower earlier this week and I'm like, hey, I've just started getting my, thoughts around my podcast on paper. I'm doing some trial recordings, etc. Then I'm like, I should bring Kathy on the podcast first and interview her as I begin my interviews. And I'm like, and right after that, I texted her in a while and I'm like, Kathy, how does your week look next week? And then, yeah, here we are. And you're not alone, Kathy. I'm just as nervous because this is the first time I'm doing. While you and I talk and we record things because you and I are coaching, this is the first time I am doing anything like this where I'm interviewing somebody for a podcast. So let's see how this unfolds.
Yes, go with the flow. That's what
Yeah.
we do.
Yes. And I'm so excited to hear from you in a different capacity today because you and I have been friends for so long. You are the first person that I go to for so many different things. And you and I have also been working as, in the capacity as a coach and client. Tell me, before we get started, tell us what this journey has been like for you. Summarize real quick. Who are you? What do you do? What's your journey been like these last 3 years?
I am a 59-year-old woman that has transformed her life and evolved multiple times over the course of those 59 years. And the best transformation has been in these last 3 years. I started off with saying yes to you, to our first working together, and my life has changed so drastically. I thought, if you were to ask me back then, I was content. My life didn't suck. It was good, in fact. But I know now what I didn't know then, is there was something still missing. And so this journey has just expanded not only my knowledge, but my body, mind, and soul, right? Every part of me. So that now I am a life coach myself. And I love working with other women to help them do the same thing that I have done, to find their way out of the who am I now to who they were meant to be all along. And so that's what I'm doing now, and I can't wait to see what the future holds.
Oh, so exciting, Kathy. I'm so excited to have you here and unpack
Thank
some
you.
of the journey that you and I have been together in these last years and beyond, right? So
Yes.
let's jump right in and let's get started.
Yes, let's do it.
Fantastic. So, first things first, I know this is not our coaching session, but that's just how I think I've gotten used to starting any session, whether it is podcast. I think I want to bring that into my podcast as well by talking about what are we celebrating today or what are we grateful for today?
Oh my gosh. So today I am grateful that I have the rest of the day off.
Mhm.
I'm grateful that the sky is blue and that I got to hug my child last night.
Oh,
Those are my gratefulness.
oh, amazing. Something that we do, especially when we are talking our sessions, when we begin our sessions, is talk about, hey, what are you celebrating or what are you grateful for? I think that really sets the right tone for anything to bring that intention into that session or that conversation or anything that we want to do. So it's such a great way, especially after celebrating Thanksgiving yesterday here in the US, Gratitude Day, to be able to sit with each other and have a conversation. And I'm so eager to see how this is going to unfold. So let's go ahead and get started with today's episode. Maybe take the listeners all the way back to how you and I even came into each other's lives.
Oh my gosh. What is it? 7 years now? I was trying to think of it the other day. No, 6.
I think you're
Arush
right.
is how like, yeah,
Yes,
yes,
our friendship is just a few months younger than how old Arush is. So yes, you're right.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting because I said yes to something. I thought, well, I don't know why I'm doing this. I've been in fitness for a while and I was an aquatics director. And a friend of mine invited me to an event. It's called the Empower event up in Vancouver, Washington. And it was with, they called themselves Sweat Pink back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, I teach in a pool. I'm not yoga, I'm not fitness, but I went. I said yes because, I'm like, well, might as well see what this is all about. And that's where we met. And I'll never forget it because you walked in and you light up a room and you're so inviting. And that's the first things that I recognized about you. It's like you can tell somebody as beautiful as you are outside, you're inside as well. And that's
Oh,
something that I recognized right away. And of course, then, I'm immediately looking on my Instagram going, okay, who is this? And I'm like, oh my gosh, look at how many followers she has. But I didn't let it intimidate me,
yeah.
and we went from there. So yeah.
And has it only been 6 years? Oh my God. So yeah, for me, the distinct memory of you is not really about any interaction we had prior to. I remember there was this, we were trying on their workout outfits and, taking photos of each other. And
Mhm.
you just came and took over, I think, taking photos for people there, which is what you do so beautifully and so effortlessly. And I still have some of those pictures, which are my favorite because that was also the phase that I was in my postpartum, right? Arush was
Yes.
just about, I think, 5 months old at that point of time. So I was still in that postpartum phase and whatnot. So yeah, you're like, hey, just do these poses
Do
and
this, and how about
poses.
that? And,
So
and you went with it. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think that was the distinct memory I have, but I also have to like really acknowledge you. And I don't think I mean, we've mentioned and we've spoken about this in passing, but we've not really like had a real conversation about this, is the fact
Mhm.
that how much I appreciated. I know it was after the fact, after that event, we both went back home, and then you reached out to me randomly out of the blue one day, and you just wanted to, like, hey, let's meet for coffee or something, right? And for those of you who don't know, I'm very particular about who I meet, who I spend my time with. And I've just been that way for a long time, long before I became a coach and, thought about boundaries and whatnot, right? And something about how you sent that message was so inviting to me. And
Mhm.
especially, to give a bit of background, is that at that point of time, I was a pretty successful blogger,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Influencer, for the lack of a better word. So people would usually reach out to me, like to ask tips or, to appreciate me for something that I've shared or, like, something like that. But nobody had ever reached out to me just to say that, hey, I just want to catch up with you and see how you're doing. You were literally the first person who reached out to me without an agenda, nothing, right? You just wanted to connect and you just genuinely were coming from that place of curiosity to get to know me or, foster a friendship or something like that. And little did we know that, 6 years later, here we are. So thank
Well,
you
it
for that one text, one random text and random act of kindness and just reaching out of the blue.
Well, and it's funny because I look back at pictures because I was then blogging as well, and so we did meet up at a couple events because I'll have photos that I'll look back at, and I'm like, hey, she's in that photo with X, Y, and Z, and but I remember reading it was your post, and you were sharing that since you had moved from the city to the suburbs, that
Mm,
friends weren't visiting. They weren't
mm,
coming they weren't, a lot of them weren't coming out to see you where you were at, right?
mm,
Everything and so that stood out for me. And so that's why I reached out, and I remember you had, I think, genuine surprise that there was no agenda. You're
yeah,
like, "Oh, so what did you wanna meet about?" I'm like, "I just
yeah,
wanted to see how you were doing and, make sure you were good." And
yeah.
so yeah. And now, I mean, all these years later, the things that we have done together and separately, encouraging and supporting each other. And that's what friendship is about, not only in what we are doing, but just in our lives, right? I know I can text you and just be, okay, I'm really struggling with this. And so this is the coach hat versus the friend hat. And I
Mm-hmm.
love that. I
Yeah.
love
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. Absolutely. That's exactly why I felt so called to, like, making that effort. I mean, my son was still at home at that point of time. So to make time
Yes.
to go out when he was just about 5, 6 months old was not an easy thing, right? To, like,
Yes.
to work around my schedule and make sure that I went out and met you. And I don't know after that how we continue to meet. I don't recall that particular aspect, but somehow it just so happened that, you were blogging, I was blogging, and then we just connected, creating content together, just going
Hmm.
shopping together, doing all of the crazy things. And if anybody can do it, it's just you and me who will go crazy in Trader Joe's shopping during their fall season, taking
Target
photos.
pushing you in the cart.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, all the crazy things that we've done. I dearly miss those days since we've moved away from like Washington to California. But I just, so even now when my phone just pops up those photos every so often, I'm like, oh my God, I miss those days. So precious, right? Or the
Yes.
fact that when you would just randomly think of, oh, Kusum would like this, and you'd just buy that for me and you'd bring that over when we met next time. It's really the little things, the thought behind it, right? It's the gesture, the thought, like, you look at something, immediately your friend pops in your mind thinking that, hey, this is so her. Or you would just bring those care packages and drop off. You would either have your
On the
husband
porch.
during COVID, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You would have him come and drop off something, and even before you would just text me and tell me, I knew it was from Kathy. I mean, Vinay, my husband, would be like, hey, there's something. What did you order? Something? There's something at our doorstep. I'm like, I haven't ordered anything, but I'm pretty sure that Kathy has sent something. Right.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think it's those long ago, well, not long ago, because we've only been friends and getting to know each other even more, 5 years. But I think it's one of those things in any friendship, it's the small gestures, like you said, right? The acknowledgement that this person matters to you, that is appreciated at both ends.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be big. I mean, I think that is the greatest mistake that a lot of people make is they think that and especially this time of year, they think that everything has to be big. I've got to have so many things underneath the tree because, that's how I show my love. But I'd rather have one small thing that really connects to me
Yeah.
and who I am than a million things under the tree.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. But also it's the underlying emotion, right? It's the underlying essence of who you are, where you really listen to the other person, you really understand. It's not superficial, it's going beyond the superficial and really understanding that, oh, this is what actually is going to light up her face, or bring a
Yes.
smile on her face, etc., right? Like, I'm crazy about, I used to be, let me rephrase, not anymore. I've cut down on shopping for all of those things since I started, donating everything. But at that point of time, I would be so crazy about like buying those mugs, the seasonal mugs. And I think before we
Yes.
moved out of Washington, I remember Vinay donating about 40 mugs because we still have about 20 plus mugs. And you have contributed to a few of those mugs, like collection of those mugs, right? And one of
Yes.
them, it says live with purpose. I still have that. That didn't make to the donation pile for a reason, right? Or the fact that when it was seasonal and you would just pick up those Starbucks mugs and then bring them over for me, because I was such a person who would be like, so like all the seasonal stuff, oh, I want to buy this, I want to buy that. So yeah, so I really want to take a moment to acknowledge that the thought behind that, right? The effort that we put into, like, it's not for any kind of acknowledgement from the other side. It's not like,
Yes.
hey, that you need to score any points with me. It's just you just do it and you forget it, right? It's
Yeah.
just that. It's
Yeah.
not in return for like any kind of expectation from the other side. And that's just what I've always received from you. Like, you just give
Yeah.
what you want to give, and there is no expectation beyond that. And that, I think that's something that I've always appreciated so much about you. And even this week, I had something crazy go on, and it's not just me being there for you, right? You've always been
Yes.
that person for me where I don't have to have any second thoughts about picking up my phone, before picking up my phone and saying that, hey, Kathy, this is happening, or something's come up, I just need to vent. You don't even need context. I can just say that something's come up, I just need to vent. So you're holding the space for me so I can just vent. So all that to say that you've been you were the first person I sent a message to when I realized that I was pregnant with our daughter, like after sharing with our
Yes.
family. And then you've always been that first person who I just reach out to and then share, whatever it is that is happening that's special in my life, or even the not so special, the venting. Right? Yeah. So thank you for being that person that,
Well, thank you for honoring me with that too, though.
yeah.
I mean, that is knowing who you are and that you don't give that freely as
Hmm.
well.
Yeah.
That honors me by allowing me to have that part of your life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just want to say that as well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and I also want to just highlight for other people who are listening to this is that you and I are night and day apart, right? We're just like from
Mhm.
two completely different generations, and you
Yes.
are just a few years younger than my mom, right?
Hmm.
And
Yes.
with you, age is just a number. It's not like I need to try hard for us to have any conversation. I mean, if anything, I have conversations more freely with you than people my own age,
Yeah.
right? Or people from my generation. That's never been the thing. And I grew up in India. My understanding and perspectives of certain things are so different from your journey, your experiences, your perspectives. And so from that perspective, you and I are like from completely different worlds, and yet there's never been a time where I felt like, oh, we have to make an effort. Or like, oh, this is a struggle, or oh, there's miscommunication, or we don't understand each other's world, or we don't understand each other's language.
Yeah.
I just want to highlight that age shouldn't matter, background shouldn't
Yes.
matter, our journeys shouldn't matter, as long as people are open, right? I think that's where the bulk of relationships can either turn to be something so wonderful and so beautiful, or things that become like a pain in the back.
Yes. Well, and I think, I mean, you hit the nail on the head with that one because, I mean, I've always said open hearts and open minds, right? That is one of the key phrases that I love to use because the more open we are to people not the same as us, to being different from us, the more open we are to understanding who they are, where they come from, what perspective they bring to the table. I have learned so much from you about so many things, and you've learned from me. And as you said, we never looked at the number or the age difference between us. We didn't look at the education difference, the background difference. That never was part of the picture because we wanted to learn more about each other. And by learning more about each other, being open to that experience, I am less intimidated going to certain places because I'm like, well, I'm not going to judge somebody else based on their outside. Because if I had ever judged somebody based on their outside and decided that it wasn't possible for me to have that conversation with them, I just, it's sad to think how many experiences I have had in the last 5 years that if I had been closed in my mind and closed in my heart, that I would never have had. And that just saddens me because it's been just an incredible journey
Mm-hmm.
from where I was to where I am and where I want to go. And that all starts with that open heart and that open mind and being open to look at different aspects and different perspectives and different ways of thinking. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean I have to change my baseline. That's what's been wonderful having you as my friend and as my coach. I don't have to change who I am fundamentally to
Mm-hmm.
be your friend, to work with you. You've never asked that of me. If I change, I choose to change
Yeah.
because of just opening that mind as well. So
Yeah.
I
That
think that's what it starts with.
Yeah, that is so true, right? And I I genuinely feel so blessed and so fortunate that we connected in the most unexpected ways. But oh my gosh,
Yes.
I can't believe it's only been 6 years, right? We've done so much together, I feel.
Yes.
And
And more to come because you never
oh
know.
yes. Oh, I know there's more to come.
Yes, you do.
So much more to come. Yeah, as you mentioned, and with whatever I was just sharing early on, is one of the things that happened, right? In 2020, I went on to become a life coach. I got certified as a life coach. And again, you were one of the first ones that I reached out to say that, hey, Kathy, guess what I've just done? I have gone ahead and gotten certified as a life coach. And you were so excited for me. But one thing that I heard from the beginning as I started going through the certification program was don't coach your family or friends, you know. It's never a good thing to really do that. And I understand that, right? Like
Mhm.
there's a lot of nuances when it's about, you know, coaching people that you know, your friends or family. There can be resistance and so much else, right?
Yes.
But I do want to say that I went with the gut when I first mentioned about coaching with you. I just went with my gut, and especially knowing you as a person, you're very open. So it was never a question in my head to say that, hey, should I be, coaching Kathy, or should I even approach her to be a client,
Mhm.
etc. Right? I just went with my gut, like I always
Yes.
do. And you tell me, I want to hear from you how that journey is unfolded from the moment, like, you first heard me say that, hey, I'm now a life coach, to like 3 years later.
Oh my God. So when you first told me, I was not surprised. Right. Because I'm like, okay, you've been doing this long enough. You finally got a certification, I guess, for it. But, it did not surprise me. I was beyond excited because I knew the impact that you would be able to have, right, in the greater world, beyond the blogging and influencer stage, more impactful for the everyday person right here, right? And right here.
Yeah.
And I think that's so vital right now and so needed. But I was so excited. I like ran downstairs, told my husband, and then I'm like, well, I can't say anything to anybody else. And it was really hard because I was so excited. I'm like, tell me, I won't get tickets. But beyond that, when you then approached me about the mastermind, I remember having reservations,
Mm.
right? I'm like, what? I didn't know any of the women. And there were, I think, what, 9 of us total.
Yeah.
And I I'm like, "Well, what do I have to give? What value?" Right? And that tells you what I needed to work on
Hmm.
because what value can I bring to this table? I don't know what I can share and why I need to be there. My life, I would look at it back then now, and I felt content. I was happy. I wasn't miserable. I didn't hate my job. I was content.
Mm.
And so I'm like, but I always know that there's always a reason. So
Hmm.
I said yes.
Hmm.
And and then, as it progressed, recognizing that there's so much of my own life that I can share with others. Just, being you have young ones, mine are older, right? Just that part of it. But just recognizing that we all have something to give and share with others. And it doesn't matter, as we said before, where we come from, where we've been, what we've done. If we let down our guard and become vulnerable and share openly,
Hmm.
the impact that we can have as well as our own growth. And I look at, if you 3 years ago would have told me that I'm doing what I'm doing now, I look back, and I did this recently, right? Kusum, you had asked me to look back at my old one-on-one check-in forms and mastermind check-in forms. And what I'm doing now was never on that radar. That
Hmm.
wasn't, I mean, I look at how small my goals were.
Mm.
compared to where my goals are for myself now,
Mm-hmm.
even bigger. And it's that 3-year journey from I'm okay, I'm doing okay, but now and people see it. They recognize it. When you come in a room and you're smiling all the time because you're doing things that you love and that light you up, people see that. They're like, "Okay, what's she doing different?" And I started getting those questions.
Mm-hmm.
And then recognizing, where I wish others had done the same journey
Mm-hmm.
or even start that journey.
Mm-hmm.
Because, if you want to be doing what you're doing 10 years from now, the same thing over and over again, or do you want to be reaching for everything you possibly can? And honestly, so because most people don't know me, I've never shied away from my age. I am now 59 years old. My husband tomorrow, or well, Sunday, turns 60. And somebody recently asked me, I have friends that are retiring and things like that. I'm like, I'm not going to retire. I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to keep reaching because why not? Why not say yes to
Mm-hmm.
all of that? Because the people that I've met and interacted with and just the conversations I've had have been so incredibly mind-blowing sometimes
Mm-hmm.
that you can't quantify it. You
Mm-hmm.
can't. You can't put it into words. The change of then, the insecurities, the
Mm-hmm.
self-worth issues, all of those things that still working on even today.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's night and day. Night and as we say, right? It's the freedom that you feel when you start letting go those things that were holding you back
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
start letting that light shine.
Yeah. Amazing. That one small yes, right? Which was really
Yes.
small at that time. You likely said yes because I'm your friend and you love what I do. And that's likely why you said yes. Versus thinking about, hey, there's something so magical and so mind blowing that's going to come out as a result of that one little yes, right? I think that's what people miss is that they're
Mhm.
always thinking about, hey, what's in it for me beyond a certain thing? They want to know like the whole picture, the 10-story building versus, hey, let's look at how this is going to turn out and go from there. And I also want to highlight the fact that in age we are probably like twice, like the age gap is quite a bit. And
Mhm.
you were 56 at that time when I started Mastermind. When Kathy refers to Mastermind, it's the first group coaching program that I offered after I became a life coach. And that also came about because my own life coach challenged me. She's like, I think you're ready to just launch a group coaching program, and why not? So that's the point when I was like, reaching out to people to say that, hey, I'm thinking of doing this, etc. And I reached out to you. And the first thing people can think about is like, you've lived such a life. You have raised your kids. They're off to college. They're, working now and they're doing amazing things in life. You have so much experience. You have also worked in the corporate world before you became
Mhm.
a stay-at-home mom while raising your twins and whatnot. So you have a wealth of life experience. But still to say that, or just to believe that, hey, there's likely maybe more, you likely didn't know at that point of time, but even to
Yeah.
say, to put that faith into this, whatever you were back then, you didn't have words, right? It's like,
Yes.
yeah, whatever, I'll just do it. Kusum reached out to me, she's asking me, I'll just do it, right? But also the fact to be so open again, right? That such a theme with you is like being open, that you're going to come into a space where I will be on the other side, sitting in the place of a coach who has not even half the experience you have in life. What do I have to, coach you about? But none of that was ever a question.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
And I also want to acknowledge, even for me, like when you're inviting your friends into a space like that, when you are just getting started on a new journey, it puts you under so much scrutiny. right? It's easier to do things when you're doing it with strangers or people who have already, who already kind of look up to you because you are a social
Right.
media influencer or whatever. But to do that with your own friends where you can be judged and all of those other things, what will people say, what will they think, what if I make mistakes, and what if this goes south, all of those things, right? So I do want to take a moment and acknowledge that there was neither of that for either of us. So
Yes.
that again goes to show that how strong our connection, that foundation is so strong that none of these even were fleeting thoughts, at least not for me, right?
Well, no, and for me it is, you know, we can feel like intimidated by someone, right? But we can also then say, you know what, I might be intimidated by this person, or I might be in awe of what they're achieving or have achieved, but I can also learn from that person. And they can learn from me because I have my gifts, and this is something that we've talked about. I love that there's never been that competition, that you so easily find sometimes with other women. It isn't, because I know there's things you're going to share with me. I'm going to go like all the time in my our sessions. I'm always going, blew my mind. And there's things I'll share with you, and you'll go, wow, I never thought of that. And I remember one was a marriage one
I
that
was
my
just
grandmother
about
had
to
shared.
say that.
Yes.
Your grandmother's wisdom. I still remember that was one of the first things that you shared with me that I still carry with me to this day. Well, actually, let me share that on your behalf and your grandmother's behalf, because that made a huge impact on me when you shared that, in the way you shared that with me, because I've always been the kind of person, or the kind of wife, or the kind of woman who believed that in my marriage, my husband and I always wanted us to be like playing a role where we are both responsible equally, right? Playing a
Yes.
50-50 role. But what you shared, that this was long before I became a coach, something that like I still carry with me, and I've still used that in different formats, in different instances, right? Is that yes, it's an equal responsibility, but it's not always a 50-50. There's times when somebody has to put in 70 while the other puts in 30, and somebody has to, there might be times when both of you are, sharing the responsibilities equally, but more often than not, based on what's happening in that individual's life, the other person, the other partner, always is doing more, and that should be okay, right? And that has had a huge impact on me, and I think that's how it's been for me, especially since becoming an entrepreneur, giving up corporate world and becoming an entrepreneur, where one of us is an entrepreneur, and my husband, he is still in corporate America, and then also becoming like a mom, going through that
Mhm.
journey, like different aspects, right? So life
Yes.
is always ebbing and flowing, and with that, I think that advice, and I've heard that advice since, Kathy, other really big influencers share this, since I heard you say, but your grandmother's
Yeah.
wisdom is like, like almost 50, 60 or whatever years ago, right? That wisdom.
Yes.
And now that's such a huge trending topic where people talk about that.
Wow.
But why I bring that up is like you have grown up with that kind of wisdom, access
Yes.
to that level of wisdom in your own life. And yet, to be open to say that there's more. One thing about what you shared earlier that I do want to highlight one more time in case people missed is that this is something that you and I always come across when we talk to people, is like, life is good. It's fine. I'm doing good. So there's
It's
nothing.
fine.
It's fine. I'm doing good, right? Life is good. uh, I'm doing everything on my own. So what's the hurry, or what's the rush, or I don't need to have, bigger goals and things like that. But what if when I approached you with, joining, becoming a part of my group coaching, your life was good. You
Mhm.
didn't have any problems, you didn't have any issues, you were not like sleepless at night.
Mm.
Everything was fine. There was no reason for you to spend money, because I look at it as investing money. But people think, why would I spend money on coaching, or why would I need something like this, or I don't have the time or the energy, etc., because I'm doing good. But what people forget, or not even forget, because they never really put two and two together to see that, sure, life is good right now, but if I had more support, if I had somebody who could actually hold the mirror for me and show for me where in my life I could actually be doing better,
Mhm.
how much better could life be? And I think people are so closed off, they never even entertain that thought of how much better could life be.
Well, and I think we get so right. It's that phrase that everybody uses, that comfort zone. But we get very comfortable with our lives, but we don't recognize when we're in that comfort that it can be all of our relationships can be even better. Our relationships with our partner and spouse, with our friends, but more importantly, with ourselves. If I were to look at myself back then and look at myself now, yeah, it's that joy, it's that energy that comes out. And yeah, I was content. I was comfortable. There wasn't anything, I wasn't in a abusive relationship, and all of these things I am so grateful for. But at the same time, there was something missing. I didn't recognize it then,
That was going to be my question. Now you say
but
that there was still something missing, but 3 years ago, before you joined that group coaching program, did you realize that there was something missing?
no,
Yeah.
no. And even those first few modalities that we did, and it's like, wow, I never thought of that. Oh, I never thought of this. And it's taking things on a deeper level, and recognizing, and I'm free with I always share with people, the struggles that I had with my mother growing up, and recognizing how that affected me, even at 56 years old and 57 and 58. And that, you think you let things go, you think you've moved past them, but they're still there until you really sit down and do the hard work,
Yeah.
and look at those scary things in the eye, and say, okay, I'm ready to look at you and deal with you. Some days are easier than others.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
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 So I those 3 years, it's been a whirlwind. But I think it's been a whirlwind because I wanted it to be a whirlwind.
Mm-hmm.
Losing my father at 37, I really learned early on that life is too short,
Mm-hmm.
and we should never take for granted every single day and every single moment
Yeah.
for with our loved ones, with our family, with our friends, but more importantly, with ourselves. And we never know what tomorrow will bring. So why
Mm-hmm.
not live life? Why not? Why not? Why not? That's my right. Why not? What does it hurt to
Yeah.
say yes?
Absolutely.
What do you lose by saying yes? But
Oh,
what do you lose by saying no? Right?
I wish people understood. That's a such a profound question, but people don't really give it enough weightage to sit with that. What am I going to lose if I said yes? And what am I going to lose if I said no? I think there's so much to unpack in just those
Oh,
simple questions, right? And that's also kind of the work that we do, like
mhm.
this work of conscious inner work and coaching and whatnot. So yeah, thank you for shedding light on that. But I do want to, I think we'll be going back and forth between 3 years ago and now, and that's just the beauty and fun of this conversation. So And especially because you just went through all of your check-in forms from the last 3 years, right?
Yes.
And if you remember, what was like the absolute first aha moment that you had, like that light bulb going off for you when we started coaching together?
I think for me, I share this with everybody that what's different about you, right? The first thing I asked you to do was teach me how to say no. I literally wrote that on the thing. What do you want to learn? Right in the
Yeah.
check-in form. Teach me how to say no. It's the people pleaser, right? And we
Yeah.
know where that stems from. But when you explained to me what I was missing out on by saying yes all the time, by being afraid of saying no,
Mhm.
and recognizing the differences, the nuances between there's the yes,
Mhm.
there's the no, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And and then there's the no with caveats.
Mhm.
And that is the one where you add those conditions. You're not saying yes, you're not saying no, but you're holding your space and your boundaries and what your life higher than that other person's by giving those caveats. So, yes, I can, no, I can't do that, but I can do this instead.
Mhm.
And for me, that was the biggest aha moment. And I had somebody literally this morning ask me, I've noticed that change in you and that you have those boundaries
Mm.
in place and you're not afraid to say, no, I'm not going to do this. Yes, I stand for myself more than I thought I thought I was doing that before. Right? We all think, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I got my back. I'm taking care of me. I hold my power," and we don't recognize how often we give it away
Yeah.
until we realize that we're saying yes to everybody else and not yes to ourselves.
Mm. Yeah.
So that was for me, that was the biggest aha, and the one that I share over and over and over again, and that
Yeah.
is that deepest wisdom that you sit there and go, "Oh my god, how did I not see that I wasn't helping the person that I was always saying yes to because they never learned how to do what I could do?"
Mhm.
That's what you pointed out to me. You said, "So if somebody says no to you, you call them up and said, 'Hey, you wanna go to coffee?' What is your response?" So I didn't worry if somebody else said no to me, but I worried that I was when I would say no to somebody else that, well, they wouldn't have somebody else to go do. Maybe they won't know. They'll sit home and they'll be sad. And, I was taking on the responsibility of them making their own decisions in their life.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that too, also, right? People just think it's a matter of just saying yes or no. But there's just so much to unpack. The
Yes.
reason you keep saying yes, you keep saying yes, you keep saying yes is because of your own insecurities, right? It's
Mm,
because of your own people pleasing. It's because of your own, like, oh, what if they'll reject me? If it's because of your own, like, what if they don't want to be with me anymore? All of those stories, all of those
mhm,
experiences from the past, right? That we carry forward. And then we continue
mhm,
to say yes. And then on the other hand, when people do say no, this is from my experience that I've noticed so many times is, again, even then they don't really fully grasp the depth of what they're saying no to, right? And that's why
yes,
I introduced this during one of the coaching sessions with the group, is that there is a sacred yes, there is a hell yes, there is a sacred no, and there's just a no. So, is that yes and no, is that coming from this place of you feeling empowered when you say those things, or is
mm,
that coming up, like people say no for so many reasons, right? And that also, that comes from that place of lack, that comes from that place
yes,
of not fully understanding what they're saying no to, and both are equally damaging and both are
mhm,
equally harmful. and it stunts our growth in so many ways,
Oh,
right? And it keeps us small, like you were saying, it keeps us small and it doesn't allow us to grow. So I think being able to understand when to say yes and when to say no is a bulk of this work.
yes. Well, uh, you know, for those that don't know, we recently did a retreat, and I had so many people that were floored that I had no idea where I was going and what I was doing. And they're like, how are you? How? But that was a huge yes. And that was letting go that need to control every moment of every day and to just trust. And I look back on how many times in the past year that I've done that. I don't know why I'm saying yes, right? Sometimes it's just I'm listening and I'm saying yes and not worrying about like we said earlier, the expectations. I don't have expectations. That's the freedom of saying yes and not knowing to the not knowing, is because then you have no expectation of a result. And so you don't worry about oh, well, do I need this? And I'm going to have that. And all of those things that we consume ourselves with,
Yeah.
we don't worry about. And so saying yes to even the unexpected and the unknown, saying yes because your gut tells you say yes.
Yeah, and there's the other side to that, right? One is that there's no expectation, but on the other side, that no expectation rather is coming from that place of deep trust,
Mhm.
right? That deep
Yes.
trust and faith and belief that there's something larger at play here than what my mind can comprehend in the moment. And I
Yes.
think that's when that beauty happens, that, miracles happen, magic unfolds. And those are the times, because we are so conditioned to be in control in that survival mode of wanting to know
Mm.
everything, all the things, right? Like the ego playing such
Yes.
a big role in all of these things that I already know this, I already know everything. So why do I need a coach, or why do I need coaching? My life is already good. So what is coaching going to do for me? So,
Yes.
yeah, so that deep trust, and also coming from that place of feeling empowered, whether it is when we say yes or whether it is when we say no, I
Yes.
think makes for a huge difference in how each of us lead our lives. Yeah. Yeah. So thank
100%.
you. So that was your first big aha.
And what a huge one, wasn't it?
And truth be told, right, is that you and I have continued that coaching relationship since we
Yes.
got started, right? When you said yes the very first time without knowing what you were saying yes to, only because Kusum asked me, right?
Mhm.
We've continued our coaching relationship, and you've grown beyond, any kinds of, like, there's no bars, like there's no, like, you've broken every threshold, right? You've continued to set new standards for yourself in the last 3 years. Yet one thing that we have continued to work on, in because it's so ingrained in us, is that not being able to say no shows up in different forms, and we've continued
Yes.
to work through that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, sometimes it's like, what, this was like the first thing I brought up during my very first coaching session, and 3 years later I'm still working on that. But it's not
Yes.
that you're still working on that 3 years later, but it's the 7 layer or the 70 layers deep that we've gone now. This time when it comes up 3 years later, you're still not working at the superficial surface level. You've gone
Yes.
so deep, because every time it's like you're peeling a layer, something else comes up, peel another layer, something else
Darn
comes up.
layers.
Right? So that's why it's like it's never a one and done process. Just because
Yeah.
you learned that today, it's not like learning to bake a cake and then like, oh yeah, I know how to bake a cake, but there's nuances, there's different flavors, right? That life brings forward for us. And it's about being patient with ourselves, being patient with the process, and trusting all of this, and still saying, okay, I see this is happening. I'm still struggling to say no here, or that people pleaser is still showing up in
Mhm.
these formats, and I have more work to do.
Well, and that's, I mean, being a coach myself now, I believe firmly that I am a better coach because I am still working on my own stuff. I don't assume that I know everything because I'm still finding the nuances within myself that need work on. And it's those new things that come up when you've worked on these other things and then something up, oh, look at that one. Huh, what about this? And it's like, oh, dang it, I thought we got rid of that one.
Yeah.
And it rears its ugly head in a different form,
Yeah.
but that's okay,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. So that was the first aha moment for you,
Mhm.
when you were able to recognize that, like where that difficulty for yourself to say no was coming from. But
Yes.
where, not where there were many,
Mhm.
right? I'll take the liberty to say that.
Yes.
As we started off on this coaching journey 3 years ago, what was like one of the first, most unexpected things that you came to realize?
Wow, there's so many. Which one are you looking for me to unpack?
Whichever
You
comes to
know,
mind right now for you.
well, I think the biggest one is the lately that I've been thinking about is that I always said age is just a number. And I truly believe that. Um, but how many times did I limit myself
Mhm.
because of my age? Right? I used my age as an excuse, even though outwardly I said, well, age is just a number. I shared openly how old I was.
Mhm.
But how many things did I not say yes to earlier that I could have
Mhm.
because I said, well, there's only this much time left. And I think that was a big one for me,
Mhm.
was realizing that that phrase was holding me back.
Mm.
And most recently, the old versions of me and wanting to stay in the old versions of me
Mhm.
were holding me back. I
Mm.
needed to move those versions of me out of the way so the new version of me could just shine because
Mhm.
I'm not that person anymore.
Mhm.
And I think that person needs to get out of my way so I can stand in front and just beam like no man's business. And
Mhm.
and that was the other one, right? In looking through those check-in forms, for me, it was the realization of, yes, how much I had grown, how
Mhm.
much I was doing now, how much I had learned about myself, how many things I had healed, but where I was still holding myself back
Mhm.
because you think that you aren't, and yet you are.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
you need someone other than yourself. And as well-intentioned as friends are, they haven't when you and I have our discussions, I can share anything with you.
Mhm.
And you think we love our friends and we're close, but we might not share every little nuance with them. So they're never going to be able to fully help us ever heal what we need to heal. And that's what the beauty of having you as my life coach is, that I can come to you with anything and there is no judgment,
Mhm.
right? And we've had conversations about things I've shared with no one else
Mhm.
because I know that conversation is between you and I can be open and honest and vulnerable and emotional, right? Always keep the Kleenex right next to the because I can be emotional and let that out. And you might not do that. And with the day retreats that I've done in the past, I always tell people what they say that they're afraid to come by themselves. I
Mhm.
said sometimes it's great to do things like this with friends, but sometimes it's even greater to do it with somebody else
Mhm.
that you don't know, because they're not judging you on your life because they don't think you're this person.
Mhm.
So you can be open. And so there's a lot more openness and honesty with strangers sometimes than we are with our own friends. And how that's sad to think of it that way, but we're afraid. It's that fear, that worry that, well, if I share this, they're not going to appreciate me, love me, still care about me. All of those things, all of those worries come into play, even with our own friends.
Yeah. And what are they going to
So,
think about me, right?
yes.
Because you have a certain persona that
Yes.
you need to uphold, right? So to let that guard down and just be truly who you are, I think, yeah, that's the beauty of this space, this container where, you can bring anything under the sun to the table. There's no judgments except I'm going to challenge you, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to question you. I'm going to call you out. I'm like, Kathy, not happening. Not under my watch.
Dang it.
Right? You cannot BS your way through this one. Okay.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
Well, but that's what the beauty is that we all need someone that will challenge us to step outside of that comfort zone, to look at that stuff. And as hard as it is to deal with it and look at it, in the end, the freedom that, and I said this earlier, right? The freedom that we get because we choose to jump in with both feet. You hold me, like you said, right? You call BS when I start to say something. Okay, Kathy, I'm going to call you out on this one. Okay, Kusum, because I need you to call me out on it because
Yeah.
you know what? I need someone that's going to hold my feet to the flames.
Right. Yeah.
Because I'm afraid to jump into it.
Yeah.
Because of whatever it is I'm dealing with or whatever in the past it's coming up and how it shows up in my now versus back then. But I couldn't imagine life outside the fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Growth happens in that space of discomfort, right? Outside your comfort zone. But I do want to circle back to my original question that I asked you, right? Is what surprised you, right? After we started coaching together, is what surprised you? And you mentioned that, hey, I've always said age is just a number. And yet I've realized that there's instances where I have stopped myself from doing something because of the age factor. And I think that's so important to recognize because for you it's the age, but for others it might be something else where we say something, this is not holding me back, oh, this doesn't bother me, oh, this is not causing any harm to me, right? The lies that we tell ourselves because we don't fully grasp what is happening, right? Because it shows up in so many different forms and shapes and sizes, and we think only when it shows up this way, that yes, absolutely, when it shows up in the form of an apple, you are behaving a certain way, but when it shows up in the form of an orange or a banana or something else, there's more going on behind the scenes. And unless you actually start digging behind the scenes, you will never know how the very thing that you're taking so much pride about is actually you doing a disservice to yourself because you're not grasping the full picture, right? So I wanted to highlight that because it happens to all of us. We don't see what's behind us, right? Right. And that's so important to recognize that, I never said that age was a problem, but yet I've not done A, B, C, D, E because age got in the way. Yeah.
It was another excuse.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. I mean, at 56 years old, so we started Mastermind, I was 55. So at 56 years old, I went and enrolled in my yoga teacher certification.
Yeah.
56.
Yeah.
Right. Why didn't I do it before that? Kusum, I'd been practicing yoga for 8 years, and even those 8 years, it was an excuse, my age.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Right.
And how sad. How many people could I have done that for in the interim that when I was making that as an excuse?
Yeah. If only I did it sooner, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. As I say, the best time to plant an apple tree was 10 years ago, but the next best time is today, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
Yeah. And for a long time, I don't know if I've mentioned this to you since this happened, is you were my oldest client, right? For a while. And now my oldest client is 73 years old. So
Awesome.
at 73, why you've lived a full life? Why do you need a life coach? Why do you need to change anything about your life? But when people recognize that there's more, right? There's
Yes.
more. And there's nothing wrong in exploring what that more is, because the universe truly wants us to experience the abundance, the vastness, the everything that it has to offer. It's only us who put a cap on top of how much we can and should experience, or how much is too much. I'm like, why? Yeah, at
Why
73,
why
why would that person want to get a coach and do something in her
well,
life?
and because why wouldn't you want that clarity, that additional comfort that comes from processing things that we're holding on to, even at 73,
Mhm,
even at 59, even
mhm,
at 42, even especially at 36 and 20 and 18.
mhm.
And think if you're those younger ages, and I tell people this all the time, start doing this work now, because then you'll have that much more time to just keep exploring and growing.
Yeah, yeah. With whatever you said, one thing that stands out is like the biggest tragedy in life is never knowing what my full potential is, because I
Yes.
never care to explore, because my ego is so big that I feel like I'm already doing good
Yeah.
enough, right? Why explore something that I don't think I need to, right? That's the ego.
Mhm.
And that I feel like is the biggest tragedy in life, is never ever truly finding out what our true potential is, because
Yes.
we think we already know it. Life is already good enough. What more is there to explore and experience if I went and did something a little different than I usually
Yeah.
do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. That brings me to my next question. In the last 3+ years that you and I have worked together as a coach and client, we've celebrated so many milestones for you. If you were to highlight a few of those milestones that have actually happened as a result of this coaching journey, what would they be for you?
The first one is, I have to say, the conversation with my mother.
Mm,
So, for those that are listening, my mother has dementia. And so that is progressing. And right when she started to really start to not recognize who we were on the majority of the time, was when I was having breakthroughs on issues from my childhood and working through them. And one of the things that you had told me was to write down on a piece of paper and have a conversation with my mom, as if she was listening and if she could. And so when I went to visit her the next time, we went for a walk. And instead of just having written it on a piece of paper, I had that conversation with her. She had no idea what I was sharing with her, but I have a photo, and we were crossing um, a rainbow crosswalk. And I was holding her hand, and I looked down, and I was holding her hand crossing the crosswalk. And I thought back all those years that she held my hand and kept me safe, even through the hardships of my teen years and thereafter. All the things that I held on to from that relationship. And that day, I was holding her hand and making sure she was safe.
mm,
And I was able to have that conversation
mhm,
and to let things go.
mm.
We kept walking, and she asked me if I thought Kathy would ever get married. I don't know. Is she dating anyone? And then later, she turned and looked at me, and she just said, "Kathy, I'm so glad you're here visiting."
Mm,
One glimmer, one glimmer. That moment was gone seconds later.
Mm,
But I was able to have that conversation that I didn't get to have as a younger me and as a teen me with my mother.
mm,
And that I was able to release so many things. So for me, that is one of those moments that were so profound
mhm,
because she doesn't remember,
mhm,
right? And so it was, I could let go of the things that I resented her for
mm,
that were holding me back. And I feel let her be freer.
mhm,
And so for me, that was one of those moments, emotional, obviously,
mhm,
but incredibly powerful. Even now, when I look back at it, you know, um, got back to the adult center and I had to say goodbye. And I knew it was the last time she would probably remember me
mhm,
readily. And it was hard,
mhm,
but I knew that I had said everything that I needed to say for me
mhm,
and for her.
mhm.
So I think that is for me one of the most in the 3 years impactful, right? And I think for me the other big was just that like we talked earlier, that control, that need to control everything.
Mhm. My question to you was like, hey, tell me about some of the milestones that, have happened as a result of coaching.
Yes.
I can bet that before we started coaching, you never thought for a split second that there was anything that needed to be done as far as repairing your relationship with your mother goes, right? Like healing that
Yes.
relationship between you and her, or the fact that, like, today I'm asking you about milestones. You're not talking about the success that you've achieved, like, hey, I accomplished this, or I made this much money, or I did this, or I became this. It's like my relationship with my mother is now healed. And as a result, everything else you carried for decades now, that's healed. That's just left your aura and energy field. And the other thing you mentioned is like letting go of that control and trusting. It's not a tangible
No.
milestone, right? But so much has come into your world as a result of you learning. It's not just like superficially letting go of control, saying that, oh, Kusum is saying, let me just let go of control and see what happens. No, it's
Mm-mm.
truly coming from deep within, the need to just let go of that control and just be like more open, right? When we
Yes.
let go of the control, we become more open, and a bigger door opens for us to experience the beauty and the magic, which kind of feels like the theme of this conversation
Yes.
today. But yeah, which is
Well,
so interesting as far as your milestones go. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
no, I was just going to say, when you open yourself up that much more, when you heal those things that have been holding you back, even if you didn't know they held you back, right? But you start working on those things, you there you just appreciate even the minutest things, right? A lot of times now when you ask, what are we celebrating? And that's something even previously you're like, come on, Kathy, look at all these other things you've achieved. You should be celebrating those too. But for me, not by looking outside and going, it's a blue sky today, and I
Mm-hmm.
can appreciate that. How many times in my 58, 59 years now have I not looked out the window and seen a blue sky and not appreciated
Mm-hmm.
that blue sky?
Mm-hmm.
So how many other things in my life did I not appreciate and have gratitude for because they seem small, right? I didn't, so small that I didn't even think about it,
Mm-hmm.
that I appreciate those things even more now,
Mm-hmm.
in addition to all the bigger ones.
Yeah, beautiful. So tell me, what have been some, don't tell me everything, right? What have been some of the surprises that have come up during our coaching sessions?
Geez, you're asking tough questions. You know what? For me, I think recognizing how much sometimes we lean, for me, leaning on the masculine and leaning on the feminine. That conversation, that recognition, that acknowledgement that we have both within us and that we don't have to be afraid of either side of that, but to recognize why we lean more one way or the other sometimes and being okay with that. And, you know, for me, those experiences, and of course, I've always been very open about my visualizations, right? When you do a meditation and take us through somewhere, the being open to whatever comes, not being afraid of it. And that surprised me, right? Is that recognition that I can just sit in that stillness. I am, for lack of a better word, somebody with a lot of energy. And to learn to sit in stillness was a work in progress. And something you constantly challenge me on. But when I do, the things that I learn about myself and recognize about myself when I sit in that stillness or sit by myself on the beach, the difference between being alone and being lonely. That one. Yes.
Yeah. Say that
Yeah.
one more time, Kathy.
The difference between being alone and being lonely.
Yeah. I still remember, I think that one I very distinctly remember was a huge one for you when you were
Yes.
able to like come to that understanding of how these two are so different, Kathy, when we went through that session. Yeah. Being
Yes.
lonely and being alone are completely two different things, right?
Yes.
And people always mistake one for another. And that's where the work is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's
Well, and I think the last one is really the conversation that we've had it several times, because we had it in Mastermind and then we've had it again, you know, in our other different coaching formats, is about relationships. Not just, you know, I'm not talking, because all the work we do is a relationship with ourselves, right? But the relationships with our spouse. You know, I remember you asking, you know, what do you think their favorite date would be, you know, ideal date would be? And what is your ideal date? And then talking about, do we have those conversations? But do you have those conversations with your friends, right? And are you doing the things like that everybody else wants to do and not doing the things that you want to in your friendships as well as in your relationships with your spouse, partner, whatever you want to call it?
Yeah.
And even within your own kids, you know, we have control over those relationships if we choose to use that control and not give up that control. And so it's we are responsible for how that looks.
I'm gonna pull out my coaching hat for just a moment here because
Yes.
I can't help it.
I know.
Because you said we have control over those relationships if we choose to. It's not the control, right? We have a say. How do I put it?
Yeah.
We're invested, right? We're invested in those relationships, right? It's not control, because then that's downward spiral. But on the other hand, if I'm invested in that relationship, right, truly, and if I'm being present in that relationship, not just being there, there are two different things, being present and just being there, right? When you're present and when you're invested, it's not just about the memories, right? You can make magic happen in your relationships, in your friendships, and there's so much beauty in that, because we've all been conditioned to think that, I mean, not even forget, we've all been conditioned to, right? Whatever I enjoyed doing 2 years ago with my friends, I don't enjoy doing that anymore, right? Because I'm at a different stage in my life where I crave different things based on what's going on in my life. Like the usual things, when you hang out with friends, whatever you normally do, they're not things that excite me anymore. But to be able to find those connections and relationships where people are even open to have that conversation without taking for granted that I just want to go to a restaurant, or I just want to go watch a movie, or I just want to hang out, get together and get some food, is not, I mean, I'm past that, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, all that to say that, like you said, one of the things that came up during the conversations or the coaching sessions has been like being more invested in relationships, starting with your partner, to understand who they are now versus what you thought they are, because there's more often than not the story of who we think they are from 2 years ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
Or I was going to say, or like 13 or 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my husband and I got married when we were young. I was 21, he was 22. And so, yes, we've grown old together, but we've grown together. And that is that biggest difference, is that he has encouraged me, I encourage him. And we recognize that we are not the same person we were 38 years ago when we started dating. Huh.
You don't say.
Surprise. Go
I was
ahead.
going to ask you a question later on and say this, but since it just came up, I'm just going to say that or share that now. Is that I was going to ask you, Kathy, we've known each other in so many different capacities and so many different settings, but tell me something I don't know about you. And you just
Yeah.
did, because for whatever reason, I never put two and two together, and I never realized that you got married when you were 21. Now is the first time that's, after you mentioned, it's like, oh yeah, you got married when you were 21. Okay, so that's something that I didn't know,
See?
right? And that's the beauty of friendships and
Yes.
relationships, and just getting to know each other. There's always so much more that we
Yeah.
don't know about each other. Being open to learning about each other rather than having those preconceived notions that this is who you are and I put
Mhm.
you in a box.
I hate boxes, but you know that.
Yeah. But yeah, so thank you for telling me something that I didn't know about you. So you anticipated that question in whatever format and brought it into the conversation. So thank you for that. So tell me, what has been your favorite coaching moment in the 3 years?
My favorite coaching moment. Dang, girl. You know, for me, it was in Sedona. It was having the conversation as we were hiking in our bare feet,
Mm-hmm.
and recognizing that someone else felt that same feeling, to be in a space and that reverence for the nature and what it
Mm-hmm.
was bringing us.
Mm-hmm.
And that we didn't have to, I mean, you ask the greatest coaching moment, but that's what greater coaching moment is there, is one where you can learn something, but you didn't say a word. You
Mm-hmm.
didn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have to talk the whole time. We
Mm-hmm.
could just experience that feeling. And I could look over and go, and you're like,
Yeah.
those moments, right?
Yeah.
Where I know that those are my greatest coaching moments,
Yeah.
where I can be me fully, and I can share what comes up in a visualization. I can share a deepest, darkest secret. I can share my vision for myself. I
Mm-hmm.
can share my fears.
Mm-hmm.
That's those are those greatest coaching moments, is where I allow myself to do that because I know that I trust the space that I'm doing it in,
Mm-hmm.
that that person wants every iota of joy, purpose, passion, excitement, sorrow that has to happen, even, right? To help me, that person will be there to help me through every step. And so rather than one coaching moment, it's that culmination of all of those coaching moments
Mm-hmm.
that allow me to be me fully. Again, it's not something you can put into words, that feeling,
Yeah.
that feeling where I can walk out and just watch the sunrise in Sedona.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't need somebody talking to me, but I know they're there. And that shared that shared energy, that shared whatever you want to call it, that is something that I truly believe is unique.
Yeah.
And you're not going to find that everywhere.
Yeah. And I think what you're saying is that these connections, some of our relationships, some of our connections go way beyond words, right? I mean, how
Yes.
I can never do justice to this work that I do, right?
Yeah.
Putting that into words and the transformations that have happened, I don't think I will ever in this lifetime be able to do justice, putting pen to paper and saying that, hey,
Mm-mm.
this is what this is, right?
Yeah.
There's places we go to, like the deep dark places, bearing our souls, like you said, you always come to the session with a Kleenex and whatnot. Right,
Well, I
there's
mean,
so many
even one meditation, I woke up and I had been crying and I didn't even remember crying,
yeah,
and it was like, oh my God, I went so deep that I didn't even remember what I was crying about.
yeah,
But obviously I needed to, and I felt comfortable enough to do it. And how do you, like you said, how do you put that into paper?
yeah.
You
And
know,
the power of silence, right? I think silence speaks thousands of words without even having to open our mouth, right? There's a time and place for silence, not always,
yes,
right?
yes.
But the silence that you're talking about, that's that sacred silence
Mhm.
that speaks 1,000 words without having to open our mouth. And
Well,
that's
and
so
I
beautiful.
think we are so, as a society, as a people, uh, we so want to add sound because we're afraid of the silence and
Yeah.
what we might learn in the silence.
Yes, and that's been a big challenge for you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, yeah, for those listening, I always have during our coaching sessions, in one session, I would have told Kathy, hey, Kathy, I see you're doing A. I'd invite you to try doing B. And then she does B. And then I challenge her. I'm like, but why aren't you doing C? Right? Constantly challenging and pushing the
Yes.
limits, right? Constantly testing the waters to see that what's that upper limit for me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's amazing. So yes, there are instances in coaching where we are bearing our souls and crying nonstop. Like there's so much healing happening, there's so much letting go and whatnot. But at the same time, there's also like funny stories and lighthearted moments.
Yes.
What's a funny story that you might have from our coaching sessions?
Well, I always love anything having to do with your kids because they're just a delight. And having mine grown up now, it's like, oh, I remember that. But, for when we can laugh, because, oh God, it's hard to put into words, those moments when they've happened where we just bust out laughing, both of us,
Mhm.
because of something that I've said or something that you've said, and that freedom to laugh. And I'll never forget, the different modalities. And that's again something that you wonderfully bring to the sessions, is the different modalities and dancing, right? And just, you know, 3 different songs, and you had us dancing and just letting go that worry of that other person on the other side of the screen, opening their eyes and seeing what this chick looks like dancing. That's that letting go and laughing uncontrollably at my own self, right? I don't know what stands out for you?
I think for me, what stands out is every time you all give me the opportunity to use the evil laughter, right?
Yes.
That's my favorite because I'm like, it's not funny, but for me, it's fun because I see the traps that you're falling into, and that's an
Mhm.
opportunity that I see to
Yes.
help you recognize that and bring you out of that trap. right? So for me, those are funny because there you're like probably hating me, and here I'm like sitting and giving you all that evil laughter. So that's my favorite. That's my
Yeah.
not favorite. That's the fun part for me.
And I know that. That's why I sent you a shirt with it.
So it's not always been a bed of roses, right? Like there's so much that you've released in the last
Yes.
3 years. So if you were to like kind of summarize how some of these things that you did in one aspect of your life has had a ripple and has impacted all other aspects of your life, what would that single most impactful thing be for you?
For me, that single thing would have to be how we are all so connected. It impacts because now more than ever,
Mm-hmm.
those interactions that I have,
Mm-hmm.
I am more mindful, recognizing that getting angry, yes, we're allowed to have all of those emotions,
Mm-hmm.
right? But when are those emotions working for us and when are they working against us?
Mm-hmm.
And when is that time that I don't need to, it doesn't help me at all to have a huge reaction, that we can choose how we react. We can choose what we put out there. So recognizing how we are all interconnected. So when I get angry, that sends that out into the world. But when I am joyous and I am happy and I am grateful, how much better is the world? Because that's what I'm sending out there.
Yeah, yeah, and it shows the mindset shift and the shift in perspective that you've had in the last 3 years, right? And I
Nope.
take that it's got a lot to do with like this work that you've been consistently, consciously doing, right? And so many challenges, right? We all have challenges that, we come up against. And this was one of those for you. But in coaching itself, what has been like the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome?
Myself. Well, a lot of it is, I think the biggest thing for a lot of people is they don't feel worthy enough
Mm-hmm.
to invest in themselves, the time, the energy, and the finances.
Mm-hmm.
And that was even me at some points, right? Am I worth this? And now I look back at it and it's like, hell yes, I am,
Mm-hmm.
right? But, I think getting out of my own way, I mean, you have to admit, I'm 59 years old. I have a lot of baggage, a lot of stuff behind me.
Mm-hmm.
But recognizing, and that's going to get emotional, um, the people that I loved beyond measure
Mm-hmm.
that still let me down
Mm-hmm.
in some ways in my life. But I think that's, those other ones. And I think the last one is like you mentioned early, recognizing the growth that I've done has changed my dynamics with others. And that means that while I may love them to pieces, I'm in a different space in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a tough one to let go of, as you know, right? And so I think those are the struggles and challenges, and my own money mindset and recognizing where that came from and still comes from and working through that one. Because, I think the challenge of having a coach and being coached is you have to be okay with admitting that you are not perfect as well. And not everybody's ready for that. Not everybody is ready to say what you think of your view of you is actually coming from someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you've been fed that story all your life, and now you believe that lie to be the ultimate truth,
Yes.
right? Yeah, that is so so true. So earlier when I asked you a question, you spoke about so many of the intangibles that have happened in your life, right, as a result of coaching. But people always want to hear the tangibles too. So let's give people what they want.
Okay.
What would you say are some of the tangible goals that you have accomplished as a result of this coaching journey?
Well, for me, I've got my yoga certification. I got my hit and flow certification. I got my life coaching certification. I have traveled to several amazing events that I would never have thought possible. In addition to that, I've held retreats myself, day retreats and workshops. And as I mentioned before, the people that I'm interacting are so incredible themselves. I would never have had those experiences. I would never had met and interacted with an author, right? And people that are huge, but are still every day. But I've also built more confidence in myself, and I've recognized my own worth even more so. I mean, I've asked for the raise. I've said no to things that no longer serve me. Maybe that took me a little longer than you would have liked.
At your
But
own time, at your own pace, Kathy.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
But I've done those things, and I'm not afraid to ask for more
Mm-hmm.
in every area of my life. And it's not that I expect more out of me, I expect more for me.
Mm,
And, I mean, beyond that, it's the spiritual journey, that expansion, that mindset that I've opened myself up to, which has been incredible and would never have been possible. But it's really relearning all of those stories and all of these things I told myself before and all of those excuses
so
and
3 years
working
ago,
through
if
them.
we were to rewind back to, let's say, summer of 2020, would you have thought that 3 years later you would have done all of these things, or the fact that you needed to do any of this
Yeah.
and that your life would be here 3 years later?
Oh, I've told people that so many times. I can't even, when I look back and I look at what my goals were back then,
Mm-hmm.
they seem so small compared to the goals and the things that I want to achieve now.
Mm-hmm.
And so much more impactful versus surface. The goals were surface goals before.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're deeper goals.
Yeah. That brings me to a quote. Yeah. So it's not so much if you are worthy of achieving your goals, but if it's the question of, are your goals worthy of you? Right?
Yes.
That quote. That's where I think people forget that whatever they think their goals or dreams or aspirations are still within the realm of what they think is feasible or what they think is possible from their limited perspectives and their limited experience. But if you were to step outside that limitation, then a world of opportunities open up, right? And that's
Yeah.
exactly what your journey has been. And I also want to like highlight or emphasize the fact that it didn't take you 3 years to get here, right?
Right.
You continue to see transformations. You have transformed, you have evolved, right? There's like, it's not like you were doing the work and 3 years later all of these things happened for you. It's like every step of the way you kept evolving, you kept transforming, and you would see results, and then you would do more,
Yes.
and then you would do more. And now it's like, once you know, why will you ever let that go?
Yeah.
Right? Once you know that this is what's possible with coaching, and that's why it's been 3 years and you've still continued along this coaching journey, because
Yes.
you've seen how far and how deep you can go with this process, trusting the process. As I say, the world is your oyster, right?
Well, and that goes back to what we've said throughout, right? Why not? Why not take those chances? Why not say yes? Why not, open yourself up to the limitless possibilities that are out there?
Yeah.
Why limit yourself ever in any aspect of your life?
Hmm.
Right. And I think that's the biggest aha, right? Is that when you work on all these other things, when you do that hard work, those amazing possibilities that fall into your lap, they fall into your lap when you're ready for them. But
Hmm.
if you're never open to them at all, that's
I'm going to find a
why,
different lap. It's going to
yeah,
say, I'm going to find a
exactly.
different lap.
It's like, well, she doesn't want it. I'm going to go somewhere else. And I'm like,
Yeah.
come on, bring it on, bring it on. Right. And because
Yeah.
why not? It's what have you got to lose?
Oh, a lot. People
A
have
lot.
like the list of excuses. You and
Yeah.
I both know those, right? So yeah, thank you for speaking to that, right? It's so important to say that, hey, I am 59 years old. I have all of this wealth of knowledge and information and wisdom and life experience. And, I have grown children. I've been married for 38 years. And, I've done all of these things in my life. But I feel like there's still so much more that I can explore and discover and uncover. And I'm just getting started.
Yeah. Yeah.
That brings me to the next question. It's never always like hunky dory and bed of roses, right?
Hmm.
There's so much hard work with this deep inner work that we do, right? You've had so many of those hardships. You've been through so many hard times, as in the last 3 years. You've been through so much where
Yeah.
it's not been easy. There are
Yeah.
days that you're like, why am I even doing this to myself? Right? When that happens, how do you still continue to show up and still continue to do the work?
Well, it's funny because, I had learned one day that my hours were being cut in half. So my income from one moment to the next went to half, and that was scary. But I kept doing, I knew that I would find other ways to make that income so that I could do the work that I needed to do. And through those hardships, through the struggles, through all the stuff that happens, continuing to do the coaching gives me not a lifeline, but I know that I can get through all of those tough times because I've found that strength to get through those tough times. I've seen that I am more capable than I ever gave myself credit for, and that I can look back honestly at my past, at my youth as a child, and all of those things that happened with eyes wide open. And even if it sucks when I do it, I know in the end, I'm going to be that much more healthy for my overall self, body, mind, spirit. Every part of me is going to get better because I do that work. And the sheer experiences and knowledge that I have gained in these 3 years keeps me coming back for more because I never know what's around the corner. And it's like, well, if I've been able to do this in 3 years, what am I going to do in 5 years? What am I going to do in 10 years?
Mhm.
What am I going to be able to achieve in my life and for others?
So here's
Because
a question, Kathy, because you just mentioned that. I'm like, it's at the tip of my tongue. So you've done this work for 3 years with me. You and I have been coaching, right?
Mhm.
So why not take all of that and go do this all on your own? Why still continue? You just
Yes.
renewed your contract. You're working with me next year too.
Yeah.
We are working
Yeah.
together next year. So why not? Especially after you've gotten certification as a life coach yourself and you've worked together for 3 years. Why not just do this all by yourself, and why still continue to work with me?
Because I don't know everything out there. because because I can't see my own blind spots.
Mm.
None of us can. We think we can. That's our ego saying, "Oh, I got this. I know how to fix that." Really? How about you let somebody else point out the inconsistency in your own thought there? right? And like I said, I can't see my own blind spots. How many times, even after 3 years, we still have times where you'll say something and I'll be like, oh, God, Kasum, how did I not see that?
So are you saying, Kathy, with all of the coaching in the last 3 years, you still have blind spots, Kathy? Oh my gosh.
Yes, yes, yes. And I mean, we all do. And
I know.
I'm willing to have somebody else see those blind spots and tell me about them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the difference, right?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. We can be,
I
that's why this is so important. It's like, just because I took care of my garden this week doesn't mean that I can neglect that the rest of the year and it'll be fine, right? It
yes.
needs tending, it needs taking care of, and that's, you have to do that work. You have to tend to your garden as long
Hmm.
as you want to have a garden and enjoy that and not have the weeds take over. So I think that's the beauty of this, right? I
Yeah.
have blind spots. I have so much work to do. I have so much more healing to do, right? And this is one thing, especially as a mom, and I'm sure you relate to this, is if I don't do the thing, if I am unwilling to look at the depths of my darkness and do this work, my kids will
Yes.
have to pay the price for that. When I look at this work through that lens, everything changes for me. It's not just me,
Yeah.
it's generations to come after me, right? And I'm doing this work not just for me, it's for generations that have gone before me. And that's the beauty of it. It cannot be, it's not work that can just be done in one session, in a month. It takes consistent effort, it takes consistent looking into the deepest, darkest aspects of ourselves and being willing to say that, okay, I've done this for, again, that's the ego, right? Sure, you're a coach, you've done this for X number of years, so you should know it all by now. Or you're a horrible coach. No, right?
Yeah.
It speaks volumes for being a coach, and then having a coach, it speaks volumes because you know what it takes, right? I cannot look at my blind spots, you cannot look at your blind spots. I need my own coach and you need a coach.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's just an ongoing process. Just like we have to like take care of our body every single day, we also need to take care of our mind and spirit and our soul. And that spiritual maintenance, as I like to say, is also
Yes.
an ongoing thing.
Yes. Well, and it's like I love your analogy with the weeds, right? Because if you think you've done it all, right? You've sprayed the yard, right? You've put on all the fertilizer, and yet that one dandelion pops up still through it all because you turned the other way. And that bird flew over and he dropped that one little seed in the middle of your yard, or the 15 seeds or whatever. And all of a sudden, you're not paying attention. And you go look outside and you've got, 3 mole holes and 15 dandelions. And now how much more work do you have to do because you turned your blind eye to what was going on in your yard
Yeah.
versus maintaining it along the way?
Yeah. There's always a price to pay, right? There is
Mhm.
always a price to pay. And with that, I have this exciting question. You always keep coming up with, like, during our coaching sessions, you always come up with like, oh, there goes that kusumism, right? And I
Mhm.
don't catch myself saying these things. They just roll off of my tongue. And you're like, okay, there's that kusumism that I really like. So which is a kusumism that is your favorite or always stands out for you?
Gosh. Can I pull up my sheets? No.
Yes, absolutely. Take your time
Because
doing that.
because for those of you that obviously don't know, all right, I actually, when I take my notes, I write those consumisms in there and I bold it so I can find them nice and easy. I have so many, but this one I found, and it's more recent. And this is where you gave the analogy of the seeds in the pot, where we plant the seeds in the pot and it grows to a plant. And eventually that plant outgrows the pot and it needs a new pot. And if we don't change it, it stops growing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was where your famous one, what got you here won't get you there.
Yeah.
But that was the analogy you were using. And I love that one. And, how many times that recognizing, what we did before isn't going to help us. We have to keep growing.
Mm-hmm.
We have to keep changing into a bigger pot.
Yes, I love that one too. I don't know in what context I was sharing that. First of all, let me give credit to what got me here won't get me there is not mine. I picked that up from my coach a few years ago when I started coaching with him. But the pot analogy I use is because people would rather stay in that small pot
Mhm.
because they'd rather stay small and in that small pot instead of saying that, oh, now is time to move on to that bigger pot. So that comfort of staying in that small pot is so familiar, but moving to a different pot is uncertain. I don't know if I'm going to like the pot. I don't know if I'll grow more in that pot. I don't know if we need to water more. I don't know if we need to take care of that pot more. I don't know this. I don't know that. Da, 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 da. So I'll just stay in the spot.
Yeah.
Right? But you can't grow in the spot unless you move into the other pot. You cannot grow in the spot. So would you rather, like, obviously, when I explain it this way, it's a no-brainer that you want to like transfer over to the other bigger pot, but that's not what people do,
No.
right? But they don't recognize that. So thank you for sharing that one for your Kusumism. I'd forgotten that I shared this or that I'd even used this analogy. Yeah.
Well, that's going to be my next challenge, isn't it? Go through all of my check-in forms where I highlight the Kusumisms and just make you a file of Kusumisms.
Yes, please. And thank you so much because I do not remember any of these. They just roll off of my tongue during the
Yeah.
sessions. And then I don't recollect what I shared to go back
Yeah.
and then make a note of that. But you, because you're so amazing at taking notes and then also highlighting these as Kusumisms, I'd not even recognize them as Kusumisms, right? So
Well, and I don't remember why I started calling them Kusumisms. They were just little nuggets that really stood out for me, right? I mean, they're phrasings and things like that. And I love that, one of your greatest gifts is to be able to take some monumental idea or way of doing things and break it down into smaller bites and make it understandable. I'm not saying we're simpletons, but and you're not dumbing it down. It is just you're making it more easily understood by more people when
yeah.
you take those big concepts and you break it down. And that is one of your gifts. And so every time you say something and you use an analogy or you use a certain phrasing, I always call those Kusumisms because those are what stand out for me. And I want to remember them because it's like, oh, I love the way she said that because that clicked in my head and made it more relatable and understandable. And
Yeah.
that is, I mean, we all can go on the internet and Instagram and we can look up 8 million different, inspirational speakers and I'm not discounting their gifts, but some people, when they're doing that type of work, they have to use, and it's for the sake of that ego, right? They want to use the big phrasing and the big words, but they don't make it accessible and understandable for the everyday person. And you do. And that's, like I said, that's your gift. And that's why I create Kusumisms because
Well, thank you. One day I need to, get all of those from you and perhaps publish a book
there you go. I love it.
on Kusumisms. Yeah. So, okay, cool. With everything that we've discussed, we've been talking for over 2 hours now. I just realized. Right. And we can keep talking for an entire day and we'd still have more to talk about.
Yes.
But one thing that I did want to ask you that I haven't gotten to yet is I was almost wrapping up. I just remembered. So, Kathy, what's on the horizon for you?
For me, well, let's see. For me, what is on the horizon? I am coaching. The vision I see for me is speaking to a group of women, encouraging them with every fiber of my being to be who they are meant to be, who they've always been meant to be, and embracing it with joy and with passion.
Amazing. And so it is.
Yes.
As always, before I let you go, I know again, this is not a coaching session. Was there any big takeaway for you from this conversation today?
For me, it was the biggest takeaway was just the reminder of how far I have come in just 3 short years. All of the yeses that I said yes to has led me to an amazing journey in just 3 years, and I would never have guessed, even looking back and talking about it today, from where we started to where I am now, where I plan to be in my future. It is mind-blowing and so worth it.
Hold on one second. Arush, can you please stop and not keep banging? I'll come out when I'm done. Yes, I will come out. Hold on. Give me 2 more minutes, okay? I'm coming out. Oh, I was not on mute. He's like, I don't even trust you anymore. Oh dear.
Oh, okay, that's that laughter clip right there.
Mama, how much more time?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, all right.
Oh.
Okay, Kathy. So I'm so sorry.
Why?
Uh, So thank you so much again for being here and for doing this with me on such short notice. And I didn't anticipate us to keep going on for like 2.5 hours, but I should not be surprised, no? Right? So,
Right?
all right, Kathy, tell us, where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram at Coaching with Kathy, on Facebook at Coaching with Kathy Rodriguez, and on my website, coachingwithkathy.life, Life.
Okay,
Yes.
amazing. All right. Well, thank you so much, Kathy, once again for hopping on here right after Gratitude Day. And I'm so thankful for you and for everything you bring to my life, for your presence, and for always being that person who's saying yes and doing all the things with me. It's such an honor to have you on this podcast, to be my very first guest on the Inner Golden Hour podcast and do this. And 2.5 hours later, we still can be talking. And I will have you back on again, hopefully soon. There's so much we
Yes.
still have to talk about. Ooh, amazing. All right.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you for joining me on another episode of this podcast. I appreciate your time, your presence, your commitment, and your willingness to embark on this journey of self discovery, transformation, and manifestation. If anything you heard today resonated with you, sparked new insights, or brought about aha moments, I'd love to hear all about them. So please share your thoughts by tagging me on social media at Passion Purpose Passport and follow me there for more inspiring content and connection. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and show your support by liking, reviewing, and sharing this podcast. The more good we share with the world, the more the universe unfolds its magic for us. It's not just good karma, it's the universal law, aka Manifestation 101. By the way, you will receive my free manifestation meditation as a token of gratitude for sharing your reviews on iTunes. Take a screenshot before submitting and send it to my team at manifest@passionpurposepassport.com. On that note, align your mind, body, heart, and soul with your deepest desires for limitless possibilities. Remember, every step you take, every action you choose, ripples through the universe, shaping the reality you wish to experience. Until next time, keep basking in the brilliance of your inner golden hour and keep manifesting miracles.